Healing starts when denial ends.
Courage begins when I choose to look within.
Step 4 is where honesty becomes freedom.
Welcome to Table Talk, a 12-step journey with Nick Robinson.
Welcome to the conversation. I'm Nick Robinson. I'm here with Rick as we continue talking about the 12 steps of recovery and all that entails and how it can intersect with our lives, whether we love somebody in recovery, whether we think and are pondering recovery for ourselves, or even just applying it to our daily lives and our daily discipleship journey. Rick, today we are on step number 4. What is step number 4?
Step number 4 is take a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves.
Okay, I get searching.
Okay.
I like to be a little introspective at times.
Okay.
Fearless is a little bit terrifying.
Yes, it is.
Because I would like to search and maybe grade on a curve, but fearless to me says you're looking for God's honest truth.
Right.
So how does step 4 normally play out?
This is a step that can be daunting. It doesn't need to be.
Okay.
At first glance, you look at it, and it's just a list. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. I always go back to a guy at one of the clubs in Noblesville who sat in the corner, and he'd go, "Don't make it hard. It's just a list.
It's just a list."
Yeah. All you're doing is writing the list. It's like going to the grocery.
Okay.
You know, if you go to the grocery without making a list, it always costs you more. But there's something it costs you more. But there's something about this particular step for some reason that people go through steps 1, 2, and 3, and they get to step 4, and they hit a wall. I don't know why. It just seems to be step 4 is just. And it doesn't need to be that way. And they skip it. And they go, I want to meet with my sponsor and do step 5. And they end up, and it costs them later without doing it. On the other hand, you know, if you make a list at the grocery and you work through it, there's not a price to pay.
You end up with everything you need.
Yes.
You have the food for the week. You get what you need.
Because I think there's something human nature that they think that they're going to be dredging up all this horrible, horrible stuff because we tend to focus on the negative. So this actually becomes that we took a searching and fearful moral inventory of ourselves. And so we start to think only of the negative. But I go back to Psalm 139, which is, search me, O God, know my heart, know me, search me, know me, try me, test me. And so if I do that from an open heart, open-mindedness perspective, God doesn't just search for the bad, he searches for the good. And so as I do this inventory, I can find the good things and the bad things and realize that it's not just bad stuff. I'm going to find some nuggets in there and this is designed to do both. So the searching and fearless. So I will find some good things in this inventory, but I'm making a list. So as I do that, I'm in preparation to go into step 5. But it's just a list. Okay. So the first time I did this, being the overthinker, most addicts of whatever nature, whatever their flavor of the day is, mine was like an NCAA grid. Okay, so just imagine I came with 64 things.
Yeah.
Just like the NCAA tournament. When I took my list, my sponsor had a lot of wisdom, and he said, it's not that bad. First off, he said, there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to surprise me. And so he very quickly said, well, your thought life is similar to your lust or your impure thoughts. So he whittled that into one.
Little editing, light editing.
Yes, and so that 64 very quickly became 32. And then the 32 whittled down to Sweet 16. And then the 16 very quickly came down to an Elite 8. And then all of a sudden, this horrible list that I had wasn't so bad at all. And then I had something that was very easy to sit down, and then with that came some stories. And with those stories, I had something to actually talk about. One of the things that I also found was interchangeably in this discussion, as we've talked about and goes on as you work the steps, and they do appear for a reason in the order that they do, is what's a shortcoming, what's a character defect, and what's moral. And those kind of start to get used interchangeably, but I had a hard time going, well, just because something in my human nature, like we talked about in the war that goes on, like the Romans 7 that we talked about in an earlier podcast, just because something pops in my head, one of my character defects absolutely happens behind the wheel of a car. Okay? That doesn't make me an immoral person.
Okay.
But I do have experiences from my past that I don't necessarily want to relive those. However, they're there. And those are some pretty egregious things that I did.
Okay.
And I have to take responsibility for those, just like I have to take responsibility for my sin. And I need to confront those, because if I don't, I can't get to a place where I confess them any more than I can get to a place where I can confess my sins at the right time and at the right place. It's like when I talk about that war within, it's just like that poster out here in the hall where we have dinner that talks about the story of the two wolves. There's a white wolf and the gray wolf. Which one wins? Whichever one I feed.
Yeah.
And when I get to step 4, and I have to acknowledge, I've been feeding my addiction. I've been feeding my sin. That's what made that spiral that I talked about in the very first episode, in the first step. I've been feeding my addiction, and that's a choice that I'm making.
Now, so Rick, you mentioned moral, talked about shortcomings, we talked about character defects. Can you give us like a definition of moral here? Like, what kinds of things are people looking for when they make this list that count as, that would go on your moral inventory?
Yeah. Search me, O God, know my heart, see if there's any wicked way in me. I made some moral, character-based decisions when I made choices to shift money around, and use funds that I had set aside specifically so that I could purchase drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Money that was allocated not for drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And that was a moral, mental, heartfelt decision.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this, for me, for Rick Lanham, that was theft.
Yeah.
They talk about steal from Peter to give to Paul.
Yeah.
That was not correct.
Yeah. So a lot of these moral shortcomings, that at least the negative ones, are often connected to stories.
Right.
So this is a thing that happened in life. It's not just a feeling inside of me. It's not just a thought, but it's also something that I've acted on.
Right.
Okay.
It's an intentional decision, a shift in my character.
Yeah.
Of my integrity. And so, we've talked in previous episodes that there's a word associated with each step. The word for the 4th step is courage.
Courage.
And it takes a lot of courage to do this step.
I'm noticing. So Rick, like, I don't think of you as someone who steals things.
Right.
Right, like I think that would be outside of like your normal moral understanding of who you are and who I would expect you to be.
Yeah.
And so part of what you're naming is like your morals that you have trespassed. Like, because the Rick that I know,
Right.
is someone of integrity.
Right.
So you talked about whittling down the lists.
Right.
How long is a good list?
I know another gentleman. That told me about his 4th step, and he said he filled 4 pages front
Oh, wow.
and back. I know another guy who did a 4-step, and he said that it took him basically 3/4 of one page. So it just depends on how thorough you want to be. It also has to do with, how long it was that you decided to be in recovery and how quickly it took you to go through the first 3 steps.
Okay.
There is no time space. You cannot measure, this by any stretch of the imagination. I know another recovery program that we haven't even talked about this one, which is Al-Anon. They have a 4-step book. It's like this.
Oh, wow.
It's incredibly thorough, but they go through their 4-step. Their 4th step is actually a program.
In and of itself.
In and
Wow.
of itself, yeah. But they're all different because we're all different human beings. It's like snowflakes.
Well, that will give us a solid foundation. Let's bring Joe out and ask him how he's doing. So we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back with our guest to continue our conversation about step number 4.
Okay.
Welcome back to Table Talk at the Conversation as we continue talking about step number 4. We have Joe here today to tell us about step 4, why it's hard. But before we get to any of that, why did you say yes?
Well, I said yes because I was invited.
Yes.
Second, I think it's important to continue to give back the things that I've learned through the time I've been in recovery. And so an opportunity to share on this step is not only good for me, but it could possibly be good for somebody else.
Absolutely. And that's the whole reason we want to have this conversation, is to help somebody either understand or connect or make progress, just to help people is the whole reason we're talking about all of this. So step number 4 is, let me quote it here, make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. In your experience, what are the hard parts of step 4?
The hardest part about step 4 is taking that look at yourself. To really look inside yourself and to think back on the person you were. I like to say who you were because it's not who we are. But it's difficult to do that because it starts to, bring up old memories, old hurts. And
some of those memories we may have tried to forget on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And that's the thing. So they, for some people, it's very traumatizing to think about those things, or maybe the time that they're thinking back to is traumatizing. Oh. But there's a huge benefit in doing it. To make that list and to look at yourself. And also knowing your higher power, also knowing that Jesus Christ is there with you, knowing that he loves you and that is not who you are and that's not how he sees you, helped me move through that step.
So it's like you're fearless, and we keep saying it's just a list, but eventually you share this list with someone.
That's correct.
That seems pretty scary too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
So we talk about the person that we are versus the person that we were. How does that kind of language or thought help people dig into this, kind of that separating past them from current them?
Well, again, you have to look at your relationship with Christ. That is how I recognize the difference between who I was before and who I am now, knowing that that if I'm in creation, that if I'm in Christ, that I'm a new creation, that I am no longer that person anymore, and I have a choice not to be. So by doing that, it allows me to not allow those thoughts and that look into myself to kind of take me into a negative direction. Yeah. That's also a big part of the importance of having a sponsor and doing these steps in order, because they are there to help guide you through that. Once you make the list, you as you said, you get to share that with them and God. So it's very important to do that.
So are these steps hard to do by yourself or impossible to do by yourself?
My personal opinion and best of my knowledge is they are impossible to do by yourself. Yeah. You cannot do them by yourself. You can come to a decision on your first, second, and third possibly, but still, even so, you are not meant to do this alone. You are not meant to not share it with other people. The point of recovery, in my opinion, is to share with other people for fellowship and to guide other people, for them to guide us so that we can guide others. So.
And so, one of the best ways to learn something is by teaching someone else to do it, because suddenly you have to know it a lot better. So as people are sponsored, do the sponsors feel like they're growing as they're helping lead other people through these steps? Is that holds true here as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm also thinking about this idea of separating the present self from the past, my past self, and that would help me maybe look on my past self with a little bit more objectivity. I don't have to be quite as fearful because I'm separated from that person. What kind of emotion, does it help to have towards that person? Are we judging that person? Are we having compassion for that person? Are we loving that person? So we're at a distance. We're examining the actions, the morals. What is our attitude towards that person as we're doing that?
So towards in a sponsor standpoint, or
No,
as far
as the
looking
person
at
who's
our
doing the step. Yeah, the
Okay.
person who's doing the step.
Okay. Well, I guess if I'm talking about looking at my past, the old person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the person, not. If I'm looking at myself, my past self, I don't want to look at myself in judgment.
No.
I want to look at myself in love, knowing that that those were my decisions that got me there. But it's the love of Christ is what pulled me out. So I want to look at that for me, I like to share my story and talk about my experiences, because that allows me not to find myself forgetting how things were. I don't want to live in the past. I might be off your question a little bit, but I don't want to live in the past, but I also don't want to forget what I've been brought through. So.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So I think about my past, and I think of when I was an adolescent. Sometimes I would look at the things that I liked as a younger person, and I was embarrassed for those same things. I can't believe I liked. You're 10. You're I can't believe I liked that when I was 5. I was a little kid then. Now I'm a grown man, and of course 10-year-olds aren't grown men, or at least they shouldn't have to be. And then you get later on in your life, you're man, I wish I still loved those things that I loved at 5. And you kind of re-embrace your past with more love and tenderness than sometimes we've had apprehension as our younger selves. Does that make any sense at all? A little? Okay, good. At least a little. If I can make just at least a little sense, that's pretty good. So we've had a couple different people that we've asked to talk about step 4, and they've been unable to do it. And it kind of leaves us with this picture that step 4 is particularly intimidating. As you've worked with people, as you've gone through these steps yourselves, has that been your experience, that step 4 is particularly hard?
It is. I've definitely used the word intimidating. I think step 4 has a reputation that is shared throughout recovery. You have so many people who talk about how hard it is and how difficult it is, how scary it was, and all of these things. And so all the new people that come in are feeling very intimidated, and they are afraid to take those first steps and getting there, or they'll work to that point. Then I just haven't had time to do my list. I don't know. I've been too busy to show up to the meetings. I haven't had time to meet with my sponsor. So they kind of just hem-haw around the bush about it, and then they find themselves backsliding.
Yeah.
So it is for some people, it is intimidating. Yeah.
How?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I just want to pitch this and throw this out here. You said something a minute ago about the Joe that you were, the Joe that you are now. And it strikes me as you look at the list, once the list is down, not forgetting, as you, even before you met with your sponsor to go over the list and do step 5, as you looked at the list, as you looked at that, and you looked at that through the filter of who you are now in Christ, did it give you a sense of gratitude to say, this is, man, even before, because people talk about, I had this healing sensation after I had my meeting with my sponsor. Did it give you a sense of self-forgiveness and healing just to get it on paper? I mean, what, because, you know, I already, just to get it down, what happened?
Yeah, so I mean, just getting it down allowed me to see. It was. I would say it more like this: that when I looked at that list, I couldn't believe how far I had already came.
Oh, wow.
Right. So just writing that down, I was like, wow, was I really that person? You know. And then as we moved on to the sharing portion of step 5, that's when that you know, the kind of like I was able to let go of all of it. So like making the list and looking at it was like, it was eye-opening, but it was also rewarding, because I could be grateful that I was no longer living that life. I was no longer doing those things already. Absolutely. Already.
Wow.
And so by writing it down and looking at it, it's just a way, like I said, it's a self-examination. It's a moral inventory. So I can look at myself, it's like, I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore. I have zero desire to do that stuff, and I can't believe I ever did do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was 10 or 11, 12 years old, I didn't think I would ever do anything like that.
So we're making the list, and it's helping it set us free. One of the questions I like to ask is, what it would be like if more people did this? If more people sat down and took a searching and fearless moral inventory of their self, whether they were in recovery or not.
Well, I think it has definitely been, I do see it as beneficial for all people.
Yeah.
And to be able to see other or more people work the steps as a whole. I don't think you can just work step 4, but to work the steps as a whole and to get to step 4 and to have one, I think that anyone who does that would benefit greatly from it. I think that they would see a lot of areas in their life in which maybe their thought process isn't quite what they thought it was. Also, I think it would strengthen them and give them more confidence in handling situations, being able to look at the things in which if they fearlessly looked at themselves, they're going to find some things that maybe they aren't too proud of, or maybe that they made a poor decision. And so it allows them to look more at themselves and to maybe change their thinking into those things so that they can live a more full life.
Confront those things and
right.
make some changes. I picture myself like trying to stand in a pulpit on Sunday morning and giving people like pieces of paper and it's like, now make your inventory. And
Put that in the bulletin.
that would terrify people. And if you pre-announced it, nobody would show up, I don't think, right? Like it's just such heavy work, and it's not something you do while someone might be looking over your paper. Like this is private, personal work. But I just think like this to me feels like discipleship. Right. This idea of looking at yourself and seeing how far Jesus has brought you already, and imagining, dealing with moral failings so God can keep taking you even further. Well, Joe, is there anything else that you'd like to say as we wrap up this part of our conversation?
No, the only thing I'd like to say, like you were saying, is to look at how far Jesus has brought us. Mm-hmm. Knowing that, that we are loved, that we are not alone, that in the dark is not where we're meant to live, and that there is a light that you can live in that is way more powerful and way more fulfilling than any life you've ever sought before. Mm-hmm. Knowing that is just what I want to share to anyone who might be listening, because that sense of being alone and that sense of being in the darkness and that acceptance of that life is the devil, and it is evil, and that is not the truth.
And it's not leading you anywhere good.
That's right. That's right.
Joe, thank you so much for talking with us. We're going to take another break here, and then we'll come back with Rick, and we'll wrap up the rest of our conversation. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Welcome back to our wrap up of our conversation on step number 4. Again, like in half an hour or so as we have these conversations, we can only get so deep. These are big principles, big steps that take a lot of life energy and intentionality and help to actually get through. So this is just a small preview, really, of how much this is. So, Rick, one of the things that we've talked about is just how intimidating this step can be, how hard it can be. So there's 12 steps. Where would you rank it? Like if 1 is the hardest, 2 is the second hardest. Like where would you rank this in your experience of its challenge?
Well, I think Joe hit on it. There's a lot of rumor mill that step 4 is the hardest. So there's an illusion that step 4 is the most difficult one. I would put it second.
Second. So it's still very challenging, just not the hardest.
It is challenging.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a challenge because by nature, we don't want to look back and dredge up the trauma and the negative, because with that comes responsibility, and with that comes a level of guilt and a level of shame. And who wants to have to deal with that?
Amen. I mean, you can't move through it until you acknowledge it, though.
Right.
So what's your kind of nugget of wisdom here on kind of making step 4 doable?
Well, I mentioned the 2 wolves, whichever one you feed. So the step is took a fearless and searching moral inventory. You can make it fearless and be brave and courageous, or you can be fearful. And in this instance, it's just a list. Mm-hmm. So have no fear. That's what I would summarize that as.
So you said earlier that courage is the word for this step. So each of these steps have a word, and I haven't asked this question in other conversations so far, but it is interesting to me. So courage is for this step. How does courage help us through the whole process? Like, does it have a bigger role outside of step 4?
Well, I think courage plays huge in all of these, because first off, just stepping in the door, like we talked about at the very beginning, the admission and coming to that place. Once you begin this process, there's some biggies here. Getting to a place of humility, getting to a place of vulnerability, getting to a place of honesty, getting to a place of openness, sticking with this so that you're going to just stay the course and work these steps in order with somebody, just like Joe said, not trying to jump around and just go, hey, I'm gonna skip this one because it's uncomfortable. So you get uncomfortable for a little while in step 4. If there's a little discomfort, call your sponsor, call a friend, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to admit, hey, this is a little bit scary, but you know what? It's like, so is physical therapy. Yeah. But you got to do the surgery. You got to go to the doctor. You got to do the physical. You got to do the work. Everything takes courage that has benefit.
Absolutely. I'm also picking up on a real, like if you're having trouble with the courage to do the step,
right,
have the courage to ask for help.
Right.
And I think that's just a life lesson that we can apply to all kinds of places, including discipleship, recovery, our taxes. I think it applies to everything.
Sure. And this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. You just don't, like we said, this is not something that you take the class and it's 13 weeks and you're over. You don't turn the tassel and graduate. This is something, like Joe said, these are lifelong things that every single person on the planet, actually, no matter what, can benefit from. It's not just for people with addictions, but actually in all walks of life could benefit, but particularly people that have that little bit of addictive kind of mindset and messed up thinking in their processes.
And I think if you can be fearless once, you can be fearless again.
Right.
You're breaking the seal and going forward.
And every time you overcome a fear, it will help you with your next one.
Let's leave with that thought. Thank you all for joining us for the conversation today as we've talked about step number 4. We're going to continue down this journey of the 12 steps of recovery. Spoiler alert, there's 12, so stay tuned for the rest of them. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, and thank you, Rick, and thank you, Joe, for being part of it.